You probably think your back workouts are solid, but here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people train their back in a way that actually makes it weaker. Sounds crazy, right? But if your posture still collapses, your shoulders round forward, or your lower back always feels tight, then something in your routine is secretly working against you. And today, we're fixing that. Before we dive into the first underrated exercise, let me ask you this. When was the last time you felt your actual back muscles doing the work instead of your arms or your neck taking over? If you had to pause and think, that's exactly why this matters. Because it's not the weight, it's your form. And the tiniest detail can flip a weak rep into a powerful one. Now here's the mistake almost everyone makes. They rush, they pull fast, they hinge sloppy, and they assume back exercise means yank with whatever muscles you've got. But your back doesn't work like a rowdy group of friends. It's more like a coordinated team. If one member jumps the gun, the whole system falls apart. So right now, I want you to picture your spine as the solid frame of a skyscraper. If that frame wobbles even a little, everything built on top of it gets unstable. And here's your first light bulb moment. Most back weakness comes from not setting that frame before the movement even starts. You'll hear me talk about this again and again, because mastering this one idea will completely change how your back develops. I'm about to show you the first underrated workout that fixes this instantly. But before I reveal it, I need you to notice something. How you initiate the pull is more important than the pull itself. Most people yank with their hands. The strong ones lead with their elbows. But the people with truly powerful backs, they start the movement with a tiny, almost invisible motion in the shoulder blade. That's the secret you've been missing. Alright, ready to feel the difference? You know what's wild? Most people walk into the gym thinking they're building a strong back, but the truth is, they're only training the parts that are already strong and ignoring everything that's actually weak. That means every rep, every set, every drop of sweat might literally be reinforcing bad habits instead of fixing them. And here's the twist. It's not because you're lazy or careless or unmotivated. It's because no one ever taught you how a back is supposed to feel when it's working. And once you understand that, everything changes. Let me start by asking you something simple. When you do any back exercise, rows, pull downs, deadlifts, anything, do you actually feel the muscles along the sides of your spine engaging? Or do you mostly feel your arms pulling, your biceps burning, and your neck trying to help even though you never invited it to the party? Be honest with yourself for a second. Because that one moment of honesty tells you more about your training than any fancy program ever could. Here's the problem that almost everyone falls for. They think movement equals muscle engagement. They think if they're pulling something, their back must be doing the work. But that's like saying if a car is moving, the engine must be running smoothly. Maybe it is. Or maybe the wheels are spinning while smoke pours out of the hood. You won't know until you look under. And today, that's exactly what we're doing. We're looking under the hood of your back training. Because before you learn the first underrated exercise, you need to understand what's been going wrong all this time, but not in a way that overwhelms you with anatomy terms or textbook explanations. I want to make this simple enough that it clicks instantly, but powerful enough that you'll never forget it. Imagine your spine as the foundation of a skyscraper. If the foundation shifts even 1 inch, the entire structure above it starts to bend, sag, or crack. That's what happens when your core and your shoulder blades aren't stable. You move weight, but you move it on a shaky frame. And your body, being the clever survival machine that it is, tries to fix the instability by recruiting random muscles just to get the motion done. That's how you end up pulling with your arms, shrugging with your traps, and arching your lower back until it cries for help. And here's where things get interesting. Most people try to fix this by going heavier, thinking maybe I'll feel my back more if the weight challenges me. But that's like trying to tighten a loose screw by hitting it harder with a hammer. You're not fixing the problem, you're just making the damage happen faster. So let's flip the script. Instead of thinking about pulling weight, let's start thinking about moving your body in a way that actually activates the muscles you're trying to grow. And the first step to that is the thing almost nobody pays attention to, the start of the movement, the initiation, the tiny moment right before your arms even begin to pull. Here's your first real light bulb moment. Your back doesn't start in your hands, it starts in your shoulder blades. If your hands move before your shoulder blades engage, you've already lost the rep. It doesn't matter if you're pulling 20 pounds or 200, your arms will take over, your traps will jump in, and your back will only do the leftover scraps of the work. Think about that for a second. How many times have you pulled a weight without even thinking about your shoulder blades? Probably thousands. And every single one of those reps was built on a quiet little mistake that no one ever told you about. Until now. Let me paint a picture so you can really feel this. Imagine you're trying to pick up a heavy box from the ground. If you bend your back and lift with your spine, you'll feel pain instantly. But if you hinge your hips, brace your core, and pull using your legs, the weight suddenly feels lighter, because the right muscles finally showed up for the job. Your back exercises work the same way. When your shoulder blades stay asleep, your arms do the heavy lifting. But when your shoulder blades wake up and take charge, your back finally becomes the engine of the movement. This brings us right to the moment you've been waiting for, the first underrated workout that will fix this. But before I name it, I want you to understand why it works so well. This exercise forces your shoulder blades to initiate every rep. It teaches your back to fire before your arms pull. It builds stability in that skyscraper frame we talked about. And because it's low risk and high control, it allows even beginners to feel their back activate for the first time in their entire training life. Here's a clue. This exercise has nothing to do with lifting heavy weights, nothing to do with cables or machines, nothing flashy. In fact, you could do it right now, wherever you're sitting or standing. And if you do it right, you'll feel a deep, slow contraction along the middle of your back that might surprise you. Because it's the contraction you've been missing in every back workout. But I'm not revealing it just yet. Because before we jump into the actual movement, I need you to understand the final piece of the puzzle. How to position your ribs, your spine, and your core so the movement becomes automatic instead of forced. Because once you lock in that positioning, the exercise I'm about to show you becomes 10 times more powerful. You know what's fascinating? Almost everybody in the gym claims they're training for a strong back, yet very few people actually have one. Sure, they might pull heavy weight on a row machine or stack plates on a lat pull down or brag about their deadlift numbers, but when you really look at their posture, their control, their stability, their ability to generate power, the truth shows up instantly. Rounded shoulders, weak lower traps, overactive upper traps, elbows flaring everywhere, momentum doing more work than the muscles, and worst of all, a complete disconnect between what they think they're training and what's actually doing the work. Let me start by asking you something that might sting a little. When you train your back, are you doing the reps, or are your arms doing the reps while your back just comes along for the ride? Think about the last pull down you did. When you pulled the bar down, did your elbows move smoothly or did your hands dominate the movement? When you rowed, did your chest stay lifted and your spine stable, or did you curl your shoulders forward as the weight got heavier? When you bent over for any barbell row, did your hips hold position, or did your lower back arch until it felt like it was carrying the whole load? That's the thing most people never admit. It's incredibly easy to think you were training your back while completely missing the muscles that matter. And today, that ends for you. Today, you learn how to make your back fire in a way that feels stronger, safer, and more connected than anything you've done before. But before I reveal the first underrated back exercise, and trust me, it's one you've either forgotten about or never done correctly, we're going to peel back the layers of why your back hasn't been growing or strengthening the way you want it to. Let's start with the simplest mistake people make, mistaking movement for activation. Just because the weight is traveling doesn't mean the right muscle is producing the force. If you toss a ball forward, the ball moves, but that doesn't mean your hand was strong. It just means you gave the ball a push. And that's what most people do in the gym. They push the weight through space using the easiest path their body can find. Your body is smart. It wants to take the path of least resistance. It doesn't care about aesthetics or posture or muscle balance. It cares about completing the task while conserving energy. That means the strongest muscles, or the ones with the least activation barrier, jump in first. For a lot of people, that means the forearms, the biceps, the upper traps, and even the lower back try to do the work that should be done by the lats, the rhomboids, the middle traps, and the spinal stabilizers. It's like trying to build the house by letting only one or two workers handle all the heavy lifting, while everyone else stands around. The job gets done, but the structure is weak, uneven, and unstable. You wouldn't trust a house built like that, so why trust a body trained like that? Picture your back as the architectural frame of that skyscraper. Every movement you do, pulling, hinging, twisting, bracing, needs that frame to stay aligned. If your shoulder blades glide uncontrollably, if your ribs flare out, if your pelvis tilts forward, your frame wobbles. And when the frame wobbles, the wrong muscles jump in to stabilize. That's how your traps get tighter, your neck gets sore, and your lower back compensates,